Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about a film that actually came out in the early 90s. I think it was 1992, and that's the film Stay Tuned. This is a film that I've heard about for a long time, and I didn't get around to seeing it until just recently. And it's just one of those films where I've always kind of been intrigued by the concept for it. I knew about some people that were in it, like John Ritter from the It miniseries, and Pam Dawber, or whatever her name is pronounced. I know that she had a role in Mork and Mindy, and so I know a couple of people that were in the movie. I knew the concept of the film. I was always kind of intrigued by it. I think at one point in time, Warner Brothers even offered the film to Tim Burton before he just eventually went on to do Batman Returns, which I think he had full creative freedom for, which I think is ultimately why he did Batman Returns instead of this movie. But in this movie, you guys stay tuned if you haven't heard of it or don't know what it's about. Basically, this couple, they're struggling with their marriage. The father of the family is always watching TV. He seems to never let go of the remote. He's always kind of this lazy person that sits around a TV all day. One of the kids in the beginning of the film says, if the average person watches 7 hours of TV throughout the week, my dad can probably double or triple that, or even sometimes quadruple that. And so basically, the man is, if he's not working, he's at home watching TV. The wife of the family is kind of this workaholic that um, gets all these promotions at work, works hard, definitely puts food and bread on the table, definitely provides for the family the most, and is just getting really sick of the husband, really getting sick of the husband being lazy and only kind of focusing on the TV and things like that. But basically, one night while one of their television set breaks after the wife kind of has the fight with the husband, there is a door-to-door salesman that rings their doorbell and offers them this TV that has over 600 channels. It's kind of this big television set. There's channels that you can't get anywhere else. So basically, the husband of the family accepts the offer. There's some type of a free trial that ultimately gets him intrigued by it. He's not super happy about the bill that he's going to get for it eventually, but ultimately, the free trial is ultimately why he wants this TV. So this big satellite gets installed in the back of their house, and while he's trying to adjust it because the TV set kind of suddenly stops working, he gets sucked into the satellite along with the wife, who's already mad at him again. And basically, they get sent to basically this hell version of television where there's 666 channels, get it 666. And all the channels are kind of these dark shows where nothing but bad things can happen to you and stuff. And so over the course of this film, apparently the guy who's the door-to-door salesman, turns out he works for the devil, and nobody can survive being inside the television set for 24 hours. So basically, if you live for 24 hours, if you're able to get through all these different channels, you get set free back into reality. No other family has done this before. There's even a family we're introduced to right away in the film that did not make it to the 24-hour mark at all. And so basically, over the course of this film, this couple has to figure out how to get out of this television TV series. I think that's what it's called, Television, and survive for 24 hours. They get help along the way. There's characters along the way that help them out, try to get out of there. There's a character played by Eugene Levy that's kind of this executive that got thrown into the situation and so forth. So over the course of this film, they have to figure out how to get out of the television TV set. But overall, guys, I enjoyed Stay Tuned. I thought it was a very fun movie. I thought everything about the concept that I was intrigued by originally definitely lived up to the hype here. I was just very intrigued by this movie. I was very happy with the result of it. There's things about it that aren't perfect. I don't think I'm going to label this film as an all-time favorite or anything, but there's things about it that I really like. So let's go over some positives and negatives of why I really like this film, but why it's also not a perfect film at the same time. So from positives and negatives of this movie, this is a very fun film concept. I like the idea of going through all these different channels. You have a way of escaping each channel, but you have to figure out how to kind of play along with the channel and, figure it out. If you're sucked into this dark version of Wayne's World, which is featured in this here, I think it's called Dwayne's World. You have to figure out how to play along with the show while also being able to go into the next portal to be able to go to the next channel. There's a lot of fun things like that. They even have features where you can mute the sound of the channel if you have a remote, and you can mute all the people talking and stuff like that. So there's fun things like that that the film does. I think they're a lot of fun. I think there's like even a laser feature on the remote if you know how to use it correctly. So it's a very fun film. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. And there's also a lot of fun shows and movie dark parodies here. I think there's like The Silencer of the Lambs, Driving Over Miss Daisy, Dwayne's World, like I said. There's just a lot of fun things where they definitely took everything that they loved about film and television and found a way to do a dark parody of it so it can match this television vision that they're doing for the movie. So it's just a lot of fun seeing the dark parodies of all the things that we know and love about TV shows and movies. I also like how the film depicts how communication is very prominent in television while also showing the dangers of television. So I like how television can teach you something if you're watching the right program, but it's also dangerous because it kind of can encourage you to do things that aren't really good for your own mental health or your own good being out in society. So I like how the film depicts all the good and the bad that television can do, how it can teach you good things while also kind of teach you bad things that aren't exactly good for you. So I like how the film depicts all the goods and the bads of the television world itself. I also like how the film has fun with its own TV world rules. There's things where um, there's certain sets of rules that you have to follow while you're in the movie television set thing. And I feel for the most part that the film sets rules, it stays true to those rules, and doesn't really break the rules until the film reaches its final end credits. So I thought the film did a great job just having fun with all the TV rules that it sets up. A young Eugene Levy is in the film, and he's a lot of fun here. He doesn't get a lot to do. It's definitely more so a supporting role more than anything else. Because American Pie didn't come out yet, he wasn't a very super well-known person in the American film world. But it was fun seeing him show up here. It's definitely a very fun role for Eugene Levy to play in this movie. But for my negatives of Stay Tuned, I thought overall the setup of the film was very weak. It just is a film where it just kind of does exactly what it needs to do, and then it just kind of jumps right into the whole TV thing. And it just has a very weak setup to it. It really didn't depict very well what the work life of the husband is like, what the work life of the mother was like, what the kids are like. We see the kids in the film, but we really don't get to know them super well. They have a son and a daughter. I just thought the overall setup of the film was extremely weak. Um, Even the opening scene where the devil guy is, giving the television set to another person before he goes to this family, it's very kind of predictable in that sense. So I thought the overall setup of the film was very weak overall. And I also thought the ending of the film, and I won't spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but it just feels extremely last minute. It feels like, oh shoot, we're almost at the 90-minute mark. Probably going to wrap this up super quickly. It felt like they didn't really spend a lot of time wrapping everything up properly the way that they should. There's really not a lot of closure to the villain. There's not a lot of closure to the life lesson that the wife and the husband learned throughout the story. There's not really a life lesson learned for the son and the daughter. It really just becomes a film about getting the mom and the dad out and making sure that this whole television thing disappears from their life. And I just thought the ending felt extremely last minute and very weak as far as wrapping everything else went. And overall, unfortunately, this is a very gimmicky film. It's one of those films where if you're not on board for the concept right away, if a lot of these dark parody shows of movies and television shows aren't really doing it for you right away, unfortunately, there's a lot of that in this movie. So if you're really not on board for the overall concept of the film, it's kind of a long film to sit through, even if it only is, I don't know, it's like 89 minutes. So it could be a long 89 minutes if you're not on board for the concept. So it's a very gimmicky movie, unfortunately. But if you're on board for the concept, I think you'll have fun with it. But if you're really not on board for this concept, I think it's going to be a long sit through for you. And overall, I thought the two lead characters just weren't very likable. The husband's is kind of the slacker that is extremely lazy and is not nice to people. And the wife is just kind of this person that wants all the attention and recognition in the world. And she's just kind of rude about it and has these fits and throws stuff across the room when she doesn't get her way. And they're just not the most likable characters to have the movie focused on. There's just parts of the movie where, yeah, you want them to get out of this bad situation, but because they're so unlikable, you don't really feel the need for them to get out of the situation as badly as if the film made them more likable than they actually were. But overall, I'm going to give the film an 8.5 out of 10. It's a fun little find. I found it on Amazon for I think about $20 or so. So unfortunately, it's not the cheapest film in the world to track down. I think as far as when I uploaded this video goes, I think it's free to watch with advertisements on YouTube. But like I said, I don't know if that's going to be a permanent thing or not with this movie. It's a fun little watch, though. If you haven't seen the film or haven't heard about it, but if you're intrigued by the concept like I was, it's a fun little sit through. Not the most amazing thing. It's not probably not going to be your new favorite '90s movie or anything, but it's a fun movie. I recommend seeing it. It's called Stay Tuned. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. It came out in 1992, so I would have been way too young to see this when I was, when this first came out. I would have only been 2 years old. But 8.5 out of 10 for me. I recommend the movie. If you can track it down for a good, easy price, it's not a bad little sit through.